Sports Professor Rick Horrow into the $1.3 trillion business of sports. We're on the record. This is the time, kind of like October, where avid sports geeks rejoice. Almost all of the teams are playing all around sports. NFL, you got to count them because this is draft week, and you've got to assume that you consider them playing. The country's riveted on it, and everybody else is as well. NBA, NHL playoffs, front and center. Let's look at the top opening drive issues, 5-1. Number one, the historically great Thunder are looking at the long run. An amazing, incredible young team, one of the lowest payrolls in the sport, but 54 double-digit wins, the most ever in the Thunder's net rating, the second all-time, only to the 1996 Chicago Bulls. 8 of the top 10 teams in the league's history won that metric, won it all. Let's see what happens with the Thunder. By the way, their defense, amazing. 107.5 points per 100 possessions, 7 points below the NBA average of 114.5, tied for 10th among all teams since Bill Russell's 1961-65 juggernauts, and on and on and on. Let me tell you what's even greater about the Oklahoma City Thunder. When the Maps plan passed in 1993 in Oklahoma City, they were searching for identity. They had lost regional airport issues. They had lost economic development issues. And Mayor Norick at the time said, this is something we can do ourselves with a tax on us. 9 facilities, 5-year sunsetted, packed with the people. The AAA stadium, incredible, $5 billion of economic impact, as well as a light rail system and a canal. That water in it now is a waterfront water sports center, hosting part of the 2028 Olympics, and on and on and on. The Thunder may be the most amazing accomplishment as far as awareness. You got a team that matches the enthusiasm and spirit of Oklahoma City. That can't be underestimated. That's number one. Number two, Max Verstappen linked with $300 million Aston Martin deal ahead of the Miami Grand Prix. He's set to offer them a 3-year deal, $300 million, 20.5% of the team owned by Saudi Arabia's public investment fund, but reportedly interested in acquiring a majority stake in the team, including Canadian billionaire Lawrence Stroll. He's a majority owner of the team today. Lance Stroll, one of the team's 2 drivers, but at the end of the day, watch the investment fund make its move. Red Bull struggling, Aston Martin 7th in the Constructors' Championship, but look at the money involved. Next week, we talk about the Miami Grand Prix and see where that is. That's number 2. Number 3, NHL attendance, big deal. Regular season, over 23 million fans to the games during the 24-25 season, up about 0.6% from the year before and 2.6% compared to 2 years before. 96.9% of capacity, an incredible number around the NHL. But look at a couple of other things. The defending Stanley Cup Florida Panthers, I'm still pinching myself, they continue to add fans. Over 19,000 average, 30% increase in fan base since 2021. The Penguins going the other way, but there are other teams like Ovechkin's historic season, and the Capitals, a 2.3% bump. Gary Bettman, end of the season, the Four Nations Cup, NHL heading into the playoffs, certainly moving in the right direction. That's number 3. Number 4, NBA players splitting $35 million in 2025 playoff bonuses. The Thunder stands to earn a league high of $12.4 million if they win the title, thanks to their best 68 and 14 regular season record we just talked about a minute ago. The lower seeds, by the way, receive less or no regular season bonus money, but a championship run could earn them close to $719,000 to split among players. NFL's postseason playoffs receiving $49,000 in early rounds to about $357,000 per player. MLB's pool reached $129.1 million. NBA stars like Stephen Curry and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander earning well over $30 million. Playoff bonuses particularly impactful for lower salaried players in teams that are coming out of the woodwork and maybe out of nowhere watch the Oklahoma City Thunder, watch the Cleveland Cavaliers. It's going to be a hell of an NBA playoff. That's number 4. Number 5, and relevant to our guest today, by the way, Tennessee quarterback, former Tennessee quarterback, Iko Amalaivea, is intending to go to UCLA in a $1.5 million NIL range. That's not a lot. He left $8 million over the lifetime of a Tennessee deal. He's joining a struggling UCLA program for less than he made in Knoxville. A lot of uncertainty in Tennessee, on again, off again. He's being treated like a pro athlete with his free agency running out. Look, get used to it. We're going to see a lot more of that in the NIL market. Brings us to our guest. Honored to have him. He basically, as he became a 33 tackle, 16 solo, 1 interception kind of superstar at Nebraska, 2007 through 2009. Blake Lawrence starts a company in 2012 that monitors the impact of social media basically for athletes. He didn't know he's sitting on a perfect storm. Overall, today, his Opendorse company has well over 100,000 athletes, over 10,000 brands, over 2,000 agents or sports organizations, over 1,000 agents, over 2 billion followers. And the bottom line is COVID gave him an opportunity to reset. He effectively knows what the future is like in the NIL space. Nobody really does. He knows more than anybody possibly could. He'll talk about leverage. He'll talk about where the rules are. He'll talk about where we're going with it. What an incredible person to have on the week of the NFL draft, because these people are all about making the money and putting themselves in position to earn it. He certainly knows how to spend it, how to protect the athletes, how to get themselves in a position to maximize it. Here's Blake Lawrence. Sports professor Rick Horrow inside the $1.3 trillion business of sports. It's now not 1.3 trillion. It's probably 1.4, 1.5 when you add $1 billion or so, or $1 trillion, billion certainly there from the NIL world. And I would say the father of NIL. We'll get into the specifics of that. But Blake Lawrence, the co-founder, Opendorse, and good friend, revolutionized basically the industry. We'll get into that in a minute. How you doing, Blake?
Rick, good to be here. I'm doing great. Chaos and NIL, but I'm doing all right.
Yeah, no, I get it. The father of the NIL world. Maybe there are a couple other people, but no debate as to the level of vision and how you all put it together. It is incredible. So if I were to tell you that from 2007 to 2009, you had 33 tackles, 16 solo, 1 interception in 2008, and that was your claim to fame, you'd say, yeah, part of it, but not all of it. What do you think?
I would say that stat line, I wish there was more tackles, more interceptions and whatnot, but it probably would earn me a pretty good check in today's college football world.
Isn't that funny? Because basically almost 50% of your tackles were solo. That shows drive, take advantage. I could hear your pitch in NIL brand meetings right now. The guy takes advantage of his breaks. Yep, I get it. I understand. So March 10, 2020, Opendorse basically in many ways opened its doors and created a new industry, NIL. In reality, you kind of started this idea way back in 2012. Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, after my career in Nebraska was done, I was a starting linebacker one day and had to step away from the game due to concussions. I had 4 in a year. So my career was cut short. And a lot of athletes go through that moment where they have to figure out what's next. And for me, it was entrepreneurship. In 2010, started my first company basically out of our dorm room in Nebraska, helping athletes manage their social media presence, and found out that athletes and social media was a great mix. Brands wanted to pay those athletes to promote their products online. And in 2012, we built an app called Opendorse to help professional athletes turn their tweets into endorsements for national brands and advertisers. And that became the foundation for what is today's Opendorse, which is used by 150,000 plus athletes around the world and help athletes earn hundreds of millions of dollars through NIL deals and endorsements. But the early days of this were simply realizing the mix of social media growth, athlete influence, combined with mobile app technology. At that intersection was the opportunity to create a streamlined process for booking endorsement deals with athletes and managing the process of payments and tax documentation and reporting and all those goodies that go along with it.
Yeah, we'll clearly get to where Opendorse is now because it's incredibly prolific. But the vision and the epiphany, I guess clearly 2012, you had the app, but you didn't really know that 9 years later,
Yeah.
the NCAA would basically say, yeah, college athletes can be paid. We'll get around to telling you how. We'll write the memo. But then a year later, the memo didn't come. And here you are jumping into this space with 4 feet or more.
Yeah, certainly the overnight success story of Opendorse in 2021 is this big old platform. At that point in time, we'd been in business for 9 years. And so there was this moment, Rick, as
Yeah.
a founder, an entrepreneur, you're trying to build something. And we spent years wondering if we should even do this because there's about 5,000 pro athletes in North America that really move the needle in athlete endorsement. So we built an app for 5,000 athletes, and of the $1 billion spent on pro athlete endorsements, 99% of it goes to the top 100 athletes. So it was very niche what we were doing. But we started to get a sense that there was a movement in the amateur space. We started to work with college athletic departments well before NIL became a reality and helping them build the brand of their athletes. And then in 2019, we got a letter from the NCAA indicating that they were looking for guidance on how to prepare their NCAA institutions for name, image, and likeness. And that became the maybe this is worth it moment because instead of 5,000 pro athletes, there's 500,000 college athletes, and all of them needed help. Put us in prime position.
So it is March 10, 2020. I got the dates right. And you're sitting there and you're making the announcement alongside the friends at the University of Nebraska, the athletic department.
Yep.
You think you hit a home run, but yet a day after, COVID broke out or COVID shut everything down. Talk about
Yep.
that.
Yeah, certainly. So in the earliest version of NIL, every single collegiate athletic department was tasked with educating their athletes about what is name, image, and likeness. What does it mean to make money through endorsement deals, through commercial uh, appearances, through social media posts, billboards, etc. And Nebraska, at that point in time, wanted to be the first. It's my alma mater and also a leader in innovation. And we came together to create the Opendorse NIL Ready program. So to get athletes ready for NIL. And this is a six-figure commitment. And as a founder, you're getting super excited that there's going to be this moment. Wow, these schools are willing to make this type of investment in getting their athletes prepared because it's the battleground. If you get more NIL deals for your athletes, then you can get more talented athletes to go to your school.
Yeah.
Made this big announcement, all the hubbub, and we had lots of schools lined up. And then the next day, COVID hit, and all the budgets dropped out. And so we were in a position where we were ahead of the game, getting these NIL programs up and going, but the budgets started to diminish as athletics stopped for an entire year. That was a new challenge, different challenge, but again, we weathered better or worse storms in the first decade of the business. We were okay through COVID.
So, shameless plug, you are a contributor to the Sport Business Handbook. Thank you for that. One of the things that we did in our supplemental chapters, I know you've got one too. Everybody's got one. The deal is that the first part of it has been devoted to how do people survive, thrive, or fail after COVID. And it goes into different categories, survival of the fittest, being creative. You obviously took the opportunity to get your ducks in a row, to spend a lot of time, to roll out what was an even bigger and better business plan as COVID subsided. I mean, right? Isn't that kind of what you did?
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those things that helped us expand was the virtual education and virtual communication with our prospective partners. I mean, this is in the world of sports, business is still done in person,
Yeah.
handshakes, hellos, high fives, hugs, all that. But during COVID, the entire collegiate athletic leadership level got used to being on video calls, meaning that we could go from traveling around the country and seeing one school a day to talk about our products and partnerships to seeing dozens of athletic directors on Zoom in one day. So it helped us spread our message much faster. And then it also evolved the adoption of our product with student athletes. So we went from a plan of doing on-campus education, which requires a significant investment on both the athletic department side and the Opendorse side, to virtual education. So we could onboard hundreds of athletes at once, get them trained up on the platform. And that really led to a growth of 50,000 plus athletes added to the platform in 2021, gearing up for NIL.
And obviously, as you were growing your company, the industry was pretty well mixing its stratospheric growth as well. Forbes's comments about all this said that since COVID, the creator economy is about 150 plus $billion, and the annual take, their assessment from NIL from the top 100 colleges on a per year basis, 1.14 billion. I think that's a little bit low. Did you contemplate how quickly that would grow maybe 4 years ago?
As a founder, again, you always wish or want for
Yeah.
something to go fast. And anyone in business, whatever you're in, you wish for it to go fast. The pace at which name, image, and likeness NIL has taken over every single aspect of communication in the collegiate athletic sphere, and no one could have predicted. I couldn't. I was right in the middle of it. And the dollars, cents, and spend accelerated quickly, but in a path that, again, most of us didn't expect. These athletes in the early days, the very first 3 or 4 months of NIL, college athletes were getting paid from brands and businesses to promote products online. 95% of NIL deals are social media driven. So athletes acting as creators, they're part of the creator economy. But a shift happened about 3 months into NIL where there was the advent of the collective. And a collective is a consortium of donors and supporters in a market that want to pool their resources and pay athletes akin to a salary. And that is what took off, in terms of spending, and talking about $1 billion+ a year now paid by boosters into collectives, into athletes' pockets, to move the market, to keep an athlete on campus or to recruit an athlete to campus. And that's become a dominant part of this industry. But the overall spend is going to be north of $2 billion heading into
Yeah.
this new academic year. It's growing quickly.
So I'm only half off. That's okay. I wasn't surprised if you would say that estimate is low. Your numbers, and these are probably low too, because it was a little bit earlier from your website. Talked about 100,000 plus athletes and 10,000 brand campaigns and 2,000 sports organizations, 1,000 agents and 2 billion followers. That's probably a little low right now, right?
Yeah, it just keeps growing. And this is something that in today's world, if you're a college athlete, you need tools to navigate NIL. Opendorse is free for athletes, always has been, always will be. They can download the app and get access to brand opportunities. They can connect with their agent, get their parents involved if they want, help them get education on what is NIL. They can disclose activities to their school. They can get photos from the school to build their brand. They get all their tax document. It's all in one place. So that number keeps growing. And as you grow the athlete supply, then you can start to grow the brand supply. So it's a marketplace business model, and it's, one side feeds the other. And so the numbers keep growing. And our job is to make sure that we're advocating for the athlete and the people that support them and giving them one place to connect and navigate. And the industry as a whole is growing around it, but we're happy to be right in the middle.
And everybody that's watched the last 12 minutes realizes that your chops are above reproach. This is an incredible business that you have tackled and are an industry leader by far. So let's spend some time seeing if we can predict some clarity in the business in the future, because it is very difficult to do. First of all, if you had a choice of a client structure, or let's say which ones of these will be most important in the future? The athlete, the athletic director, the corporation slash the brands, the advisor slash the agents, the conferences, or the collectives, or is it a combination of all of those?
The best answer is I'll pick two. If I can pick two, Rick,
Right.
I'll pick two. You need the
Yeah,
athlete, right? You need
yeah,
the athlete. Always need the athlete. Everything in sports, everything that you and I have committed our careers to,
right.
and a lot of your time and energy and life to, it surrounds the athlete. Sports is nothing without the athlete. So let's take that one. That one's an easy. We got that one. And the what's old is new again. The new frontier, the new battlefield in college sports recruiting is commercial NIL. These are brand deals, real brands spending real money on real deals with college athletes, because that is the uncapped side of this business. Heading into July 2025, colleges can finally pay athletes directly. They're going to be limited on how much they can pay, and we can talk about that, but they're going to be limited on what the schools can pay. But bona fide commercial NIL deal payments to college athletes, there's no limit. There's no fair market value required. It is free game. So the schools that have the ability to prove to a recruit that by coming to Nebraska, by going to Duke, by going to
Right.
North Carolina, you have bona fide commercial NIL deal access, then you're able to add to the package because the schools can only spend so much, but there's no
Right.
limit to the brand. So to me, give me an athlete, give me a brand, and you can control your future in this industry.
And who do you think ultimately leverages or creates the value and puts those deals together? I know you're a very important part of that. Is it the collective? Is it the brand manager? Is it the conference? Is it the AD? Obviously it's shifting sands. But what's your prediction?
My prediction for the future, and this is for all viewers, all listeners, anyone tuning in this is what makes college sports unique. So I'll give you a quick story of this. On the pro sports side of this, no pro sports team or league is really concerned with finding sponsor deals for their athletes.
Right.
The pro athletes get paid a salary, they compete, and these teams don't care if they get any endorsement deals. So there is no support staff in a pro sports world tasked with helping athletes manage endorsement deals or get outside help. In college sports, there are hundreds of staff members that are not sitting around, standing around acting and
Yeah.
helping college athletes
Right.
navigate the academic experience, but now the NIL experience. So who helps get these deals together? The schools themselves are going to be tasked with putting resources around their athletes, making them more marketable, making them more accessible, understanding their data, their stats, their information, creating pitch decks and these press kits and saying these are the athletes at our school you should work with, because those commercial deals are uncapped. So what's interesting is that the schools themselves, unlike pro sports where they don't care what athletes do off the field, in college, that's the only thing they should care about because it's where they can differentiate and they can get involved. And why does that matter, Rick? Because they're recruited athletes. They can always
Yeah.
choose to go somewhere else. Pro athletes can't.
Well, I'll tell you what also matters. It is the most ironic twist in the history of sports in the last 70 years that I've been around, where college executives who would disdain even a dollar changing hands because they could get caught are now out there charging their newfound marketing staff with putting the best proposals together in the history of the world so they can pay their athletes more than the next guy. Don't we find that ironic?
It is ironic. This entire world is basically taking the underworld and bringing it above ground and letting it out a little bit. And
Yeah.
it is causing some folks to lose their hair and leave the industry. Others are leaning in, and it's a new world of college athletics, that's for sure.
Yeah, your mouth to God's ears. It kind of tells us everything right now. Couple more on the details of all this. Post house, we've talked about that with a lot of our folks. The settlement that's going to structure payment over time. How does that impact? I think you talked about it earlier. How does it impact the structure of NIL in the next 2 or 3 years, for example, and then beyond?
In July of 2025, when colleges can pay athletes directly, Division One colleges looking at the power conference schools, the top 70 schools, they're going to average $20 million a year in
Right.
direct to athlete payments. So that's about $1.4 billion in new money that's going to enter the market. Of the group of five schools, that's about 70 additional schools. They're going to average around $10 million a year in payments. That's another 700 million. So there's $2.1 billion just from the Power Conference and the group of five conference schools. You sprinkle in some dollars from the other Division Ones, you're talking about nearly $2.5 billion in direct to athlete payments from the college athletic departments themselves. There's a couple of things that impacts in this industry. One, the athletes are going to earn more money. The parity and the gap between the lowest spender and the highest spender is going to close. And I'll tell you a quick fact on that. Last year in the Big Ten in the football program, the smallest budget for a Big Ten football team put together for the entire budget from the collective was around $2 million. The biggest was well over 20 million. So
Yeah.
the gap there is $18 million plus, right? This year, the smallest Big Ten football budget's going to be around 11 million, and the highest is going to be around 15. Like
Yeah.
from direct, so you're
Yeah.
narrowing the gap, and that's going to create more parity. It's going to create more opportunities for competition. That's the belief.
Yeah. Parity, excitement. Let's all cross whatever fingers and toes we've got on that one. A couple more, although we could spend hours on this one. Here's a 2-minute answer window that is an impossible question to answer. How do you ultimately manage the distribution of NIL funds across gender, across D1, D2, and D3, and across all sports?
One of the most significant debates in college sports right now is how do the athletic directors determine which sports get which amounts of dollars? And it's kind of been answered for them. The House settlement agreement on the back pay side of things is allocating 75% of the back pay to football players, 15% to men's basketball players, 5% to women's basketball players, and 5% to everyone else. So that is what the court has said is a fair distribution based on the actual name, image, and likeness value of the athletes in the settlement. Most athletic directors feel comfortable, and their general counsels feels comfortable saying that moving forward, they'll allocate 75% to football, 15% to men's basketball, and so on. And what that means is that you're going to have a $15 million or so budget for football, but every school can navigate this on their own. They can decide to put less to football, more to basketball. The challenge here, Rick, is that there's usually a fourth or fifth sport on every campus that is maybe not a revenue driver, but it's a attention driver. It's baseball
Yeah.
at Vanderbilt. It's volleyball at Nebraska. It's track and field at Texas A&M. Like there are places where these things matter, and the dollars may flow there. And it's a new challenge for administrators in college athletics because the revenue driver is football. Right? We know if football wins, everybody wins on any campus. But how do you distribute? That's a challenge. And Title IX implications, nobody quite has a definitive answer on that, but most are moving forward as if this does not need to be Title IX compliant.
The other issue is really perplexing and important. Future of this process relative to high school athletes.
High school athletes are going to be in a tough spot given the impact of the combination of transfer portal and NIL. Rick Pitino at St. John's, quite widely known, he said that they're not even going to recruit high school student athletes. They're going to get their next class of talented players at St. John's from the transfer portal. And that is going to impact the balance of how do coaches build their roster moving forward. And the transfer portal right now in the spring of 2025 is out of control in football and basketball. The numbers in which athletes are commanding are double what they were a year ago. And most folks are wondering, will this ever stop? And it's because those athletes, these aren't high school athletes getting paid more. It's proven commodities. If you are successful in the mid majors, meaning you're averaging 10 points a game in the mid majors, you might be making $10,000 to $50,000 as a mid major player today. If that same player transfers to high majors in basketball, they'll make nearly $500,000. This is a 10x increase in opportunity for the athlete, but it's also impacting the high school athletes because most of these programs are trying to get instant success, and investing in high school athletes as unproven commodities at the college level becomes more of a challenge.
Final question for Blake Lawrence. Where is Blake Lawrence, Opendorse, and the NIL business 5 years from now?
I got 3 Ds for you, Rick. I got three Ds for you. All right. These are the fundamental aspects of success in NIL for Opendorse, for anyone that's getting this space. Okay. Number one is data. Opendorse is introducing more and more products, Opendorse Team Builder, Opendorse Market Intel, and this is taking the $500 million plus of verified transactions and then telling the world, here's what athletes get paid. And why does that matter? Because athletes need to know their worth, and people who are paying them need to know what the market looks like. So data, if you can provide data to the market, you got a chance to win. All right. Next D is dollars, moving dollars. So these schools have to have a mechanism in which to pay athletes. A little trick here, a hint, is that these athletes are getting paid for NIL licensing agreements. These aren't like payroll contracts or whatnot. The schools are paying them for their NIL rights, and that's a platform in which we provide. We've done it for 13 years. We'll do it for 13 more years and beyond. So moving dollars. If you can move dollars, you're in a good spot. So if you move dollars, you also get more data. So that's a good thing. The last one is deals. As I mentioned, the new battleground in NIL is commercial NIL deals. Those who have the keys to national brands and advertisers, access to athletes, and the dollars that come from those deals can control a lot of the next decade in NIL because it is the gold, it's the battleground. So for us, if we provide great data, we help our partners move their dollars, and we source deals from advertisers, then we'll continue to stay ahead in the world of NIL.
It's $2 billion plus a year, and we're just getting started. It is the wild, 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 wild west. Luckily, we have Blake Lawrence and Opendorse to help us navigate this world. Blake, really appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Rick, appreciate you.
Sports professor Rick Horrow, $1.2 trillion business of sports. Speak with you soon. Let's get into the 5 to watch. Again, a busy week. UFL. Remember we talked about how important it was that they got their act together and got the deal done. Well, they did. The players ratified a 2-year pact, including a pay raise and health care provision that extends into the offseason. In terms of the CBA players participating in all 10 regular season games in 2025, their minimum salary increased from $55,000 to $62,000. Listen, it's not the end of the world, but it is the spring league. Next year's minimum payout, $64,000. By way of comparison, WNBA, $66,000. League TV revenues and ratings this year so far, a little bit of a disappointment. Average draw of about 559,000. Audience for the Week 1 games down 47% versus the 1.05 million a year ago. But the 4 games set across Fox, ABC, and ESPN, about 665,000. As long as they're committed to a certain minimum and it's there, not worried a lot about the TV perspective, but they got to keep everything else in order. And that's number one. Number two, the gambling handle during the last 5 years, $500 billion since the Supreme Court overturned PASPA 7 years ago, allowing states beyond Nevada to legalize wagering. We don't know where the historic half-trillionth revenue came from, but we know the March handle alone is going to reach $14.5 billion. Pennsylvania, Indiana, Illinois, all up. New York continues to go up. Remember all the crap about the 51% tax rate? Well, yeah, but they're still getting a lot of money. Washington, D.C.'s revamped system with FanDuel, an open mobile market, led to a dramatic 6-fold handle increase year over year. North Carolina's first anniversary of legal betting came with a modest 4% handle. Despite March Madness and a lower promotional spending compared to the launch in 2023. Florida, a black box, no data available. It's up to Hard Rock to give the numbers, and they ain't doing it. Taxation, North Carolina voted to double its sports betting tax to 36%. What we're seeing, a lot of the states allowed it, then a lot of the states looking to places like New York and saying, let's get more tax money to be generated by it. It is a vicious cycle that may help fund schools, et cetera, et cetera. That's number 2 to watch. Number 3 to watch, look at this compelling new sponsorship ahead of the 2026 World Cup. Qatar Airways tied up $487.5 million in total sponsorship, but yet a new partnership with American Airlines themed and focused on how do you get the people to the World Cup once they land in America. It is a regional partnership ahead of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. The 16 host cities, 48 participating teams, and 104 matches in total. It is a big deal Watch how that works in the future. That's number 3. Number 4, Hop Robotics collabs on a new beverage robot. The self-pouring provider Hop is partnering with Crown. They're now offering Hop Robotics' robotic beverage dispensing system called Otto, a brandable unit with a robotic arm, good Otto, pouring 240 pints per hour with a 98% keg yield. Way to go, Otto. Hop Robotics has deployed its beer-serving kiosk at 75 plus sports entertainment events, Thunder's Paycom Center, Charlotte Motor Speedway, and otherwise. Go Otto. That's 4. Number 5, the Nets are the 4th team to deploy one-court haptics device. And get this is really important. The device is for fans with blindness and low vision. It'll be available for free at the Barclays Center, including Blazers, Kings, Suns, and otherwise. There's a sponsorship element to it. They partner with New York-based Vision Systems for the Blind and Visually Impaired, giving the players and spectators ability to see less blurry, more light, and more of a fan experience. That's a keeper for now. Watch how many participate later. That's your 5 to watch, as well as the opening drive. We'd like to thank Blake Lawrence for his vision, for his entrepreneurialism, and for setting us straight, to the extent anybody can, on where NIL is and where it's going. We'd like to thank Khaled Khazar for putting the show together, as always. We'd like to thank you all for listening and watching, and join us next week when we continue to go off the record and on the record in the $1.3 trillion business of sports. I'm the sports professor, Rick Horrow. Speak with you soon.